Nerf is a great sport that is played by all ages, all around the globe. When people go to play Nerf, many of them think about strategy and the game and the fun that is associated with the sport. But rarely does anyone actually approach the sport scientifically and examine the physics of this sport. Welcome to the physics of Nerf.
Okay, here we are demonstrating Newton's first law of motion with the Nerf gun. So, the bullets are going to remain in the chamber at rest until acted on by a force. In this case, the force is Odin pulling the trigger. Now, also, as you can see, the bullets are remaining in motion until they hit another object. In this case, the object is me. Okay, here we have the gun. So, Newton's first law states that every object at rest remains at rest unless acted on by another force. Now, in the case of the Nerf gun, the force that's acting on the Nerf gun is this trigger right here. Every time you pull this trigger, the gun's going to move, the bullet's going to move, and thus demonstrating Newton's first law of motion.
Newton's second law states that force equals mass times acceleration. We know that the average mass of a Nerf rival dart is 1.75 grams, but we don't really know the acceleration of the dart. We can use a formula that states acceleration equals the change in velocity over time. We obviously know that the starting velocity is 0, and the maximum velocity is 68 feet per second. We can then use this formula to plug in and get 65 minus 0 over 1, which gives us the answer of 65 meters per second squared. We can then use that to plug it into our force equals mass times acceleration and multiply 1.75 times 65, which gives us 113.75 newtons of force.
Newton's third law of motion states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This can be shown in the magazine itself. When you load bullets in, the spring gets pushed down. When you end up firing the bullets, the spring pops back up. As well as when you throw things into walls or shoot bullets into walls or other people. That is an opposite reaction, as it will end up bouncing back, as well as trying to camouflage.
Work occurs a lot in Nerf. For example, earlier you saw Odin throw himself at the wall. The formula for work is work equals force times distance. If we examine the footage carefully, we can see that Odin is about 1 meter away from the wall. We already know the distance, now all we need is the amount of force. From Newton's second law, we already know that force equals mass times acceleration. We know that Odin weighs about 250 pounds, which is about 114 kilograms. His acceleration is about 2 meters per second squared, so if you plug that in, you get 228 newtons as the force. Lastly, you can do 228 times 1, the work formula, and get the amount of work done by Odin to be 228 joules.
Power is another part of physics that is widely used in Nerf. For example, you can measure the amount of power used in pulling the trigger or in the speed of the bullet, as shown in Newton's second law. Power is defined as the rate of doing work, measured in joules per second, or watts. The formula for power is power equals work over time. Let's look at our example from before. We already know that the work used is 796.25 joules, and the time used is about 1 second. If we divide 796.25 by 1, you get 796.25, which is the power of the bullet.
Energy is something that takes a role in every part of our daily lives. Energy is defined as power derived from physical and chemical resources. In Nerf, energy is all around us. For example, a trigger mechanism in every Nerf gun uses mechanical energy. When you pull the trigger, the mechanical energy from your finger is transferred to the main lever inside the gun, which unlocks a spring. Then the energy from the spring is transferred to the bullet, allowing it to shoot at such high speeds. Nerf is a fun and endless sport that has many scientific aspects to it. Whether it's the trigger being pulled, the awesome camouflage skills, or even the speed of the runner, there's always some science involved. So next time you pick up a Nerf gun to play Nerf, think about all the science involved in such a simple game.
I'm a monster.